We were experiencing some technical difficulties a little bit earlier.
YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're live on YouTube, so welcome to everyone who's watching. And again, welcome to everyone that has come out here tonight. See a lot of new faces, and I appreciate the attendance and the interest. I'd like to take a quick moment to say hello to our office staff that's here. It's always a very nice pleasure to see you ladies here at our general membership meeting, especially after being here all day long. So thank you. It's a very special thank you for being here. I'm going to ask Sean from Fusco, Brandon, to come up. Sean, in the building, in the room. There we go. Sean, right on key.
Just perfect timing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Timing is everything in life. My name is Sean Beaton. I'm an attorney with Fusco, Brandon, Stein, and Rada. Thank you, everyone up here. Tony, Rob, Joe, everybody for having us. We're full service workers' compensation, personal injury, Social Security, disability. Now we're doing some immigration law. We're very supportive of the unions, and our founding partner, Victor Fusco, has been an advocate for working people. The firm has been involved for 40 years now. So, the most important thing to do, I won't get anything too substantive, but we have 9 offices now throughout Long Island and 5 boroughs. You might have heard from other experiences with workers' compensation. A lot of people don't get the personal attention because it's a volume practice by nature. But we try to really, all my clients, they have my cell phone available all the time. We have offices come to meet us. There's no attorney fee, obviously, unless we win, unless we get you money. And bottom line is nowadays, not to talk too political, but there's certainly big business, big insurance companies, or really their real goal in life is on an injury case to minimize their liability. But what that relates to is deny medical treatment and deny payment. And I see it every day. I had a case the other day. It was a worker who worked for a grocery store out east, been working there about 30 years. So he goes to report Saturday morning to the bakery. He gets there and they say, "Oh no, I'm sorry, we're going to need you in Deer Park, not in Comac." He's going down Deer Park Avenue, gets T-boned by another vehicle. You got a bad injury. You got a fractured hip. And what does the insurance company say? "Well, you're not in the course and scope of your employment because you were driving to the other store." Excuse me, he clocked in at the other store, was told by his supervisor to drive to the other store on work hours. Yes, he's in his personal vehicle, but they controverted the case. I mean, in the end, we will prevail. We'll go to trial, we will win, but you're talking a 9 to 12 month process. Nobody's paying the doctor's bills, nobody's paying him his lost wages. It's a travesty, it really is, and this happens every single day. So I'm very jaded as far as my opinions as how these cases are handled, but the bottom line, I can tell you, you have a full service firm who's here to fight for you guys, and I'll be here for the remainder of the meeting. Anybody has any questions? But that's it. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Very important message, one that affects everyone that you know. Hopefully it doesn't affect you, an injury on the job, but God forbid something like that happens to you. You've got the Fusco, Brandon, and us behind you, of course. So we always invite them in to say something so that you don't forget. It's an important message. A lot of times when people are injured, they may not think straight depending on how serious the nature of the injury is. So just trying to ingrain that in. If you have any questions, call your rep, and we'll be able to guide you along the steps. Okay. Every general membership meeting we have one of our reps as a guest speaker. So we rotate around so you hear from each one of them, each region. Tonight, I'm going to ask Juan to come up. Juan Guardado represents Brooklyn. Brooklyn and some of Nassau County.
Thank you, Joe. I'd like to thank the executives for allowing me to address our great membership. like to speak a little bit about myself, some of my experiences with this great union. Started with Key Food in 1994, summer of, and I learned a lot of great things working for union company. I experienced a lot of great things, things that at one point in my supermarket career, I didn't have when I worked for a non-union supermarket. I learned that people didn't get vacation, sick time, personal time, things that to me were, a given with my union contract. And leaving that place, leaving the people there, I learned that I needed to be in a union shop. I never wanted to work in a place like that again. And to piggyback on what Bruce was talking about, talk to your family, talk to your friends about the value of your union, about the things that you guys get, the things that you guys receive with the contract and with the benefits that the contract has worked hard, that the executives have worked hard to build on. And just basic, I want to talk about those things. So, thank you.
Thanks, Juan. Even though Juan is a relatively new face around here, he's been a member for many, many years, as you mentioned. And I mean, his supermarket career has gone from Dan Supreme to Stop and Shop to Fairway, and now among others. And now he's on staff with us and doing a great job. So keep up the good work, Juan. Next up is our president, Mr. Anthony G. Smith.
So, just a couple of personal notes before I move on to business. So first, it's good to see some old friendly faces. I've been looking at you two guys, my King Cullen guys, as I remember.
Don't spread it around.
That's all right. It's all right. It's been a long time since we've been in the store together. And it's good to see some old faces and some new faces, and I really want to thank you for coming down tonight.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, and I appreciate that. I really do. It's good to see some friendly faces. So on a personal note, I just want to tell you I'm a new grandpa as of Sunday.
And I'm a new uncle.
And guys, is it okay if I get away from him? I just kind of meander. Is that all right? Okay.
Do what you want to do.
Get the
So
business.
no, they tell me what to do.
It's your floor.
Look, there's a bunch of things I want to go over, and then as I always do, I look to my right-hand man there, Rob, and he'll jump in and get me out of trouble when I get into trouble, so, which I sometimes do. Let me start with some easy stuff. I want to thank Joe Waddy specifically, who almost single-handedly finally put a contract, and I shouldn't say this, but he did it himself with a little help from me at the end. But because of Joe Waddy, we have a contract at Mandel Key Food that was almost 2 years overdue. That gets voted on tomorrow morning, so Joe, thank you. And Gus, I told you we'd get done eventually, so just to let you know, I was right. Fairway, you heard last general membership meeting and that we were close to an agreement, and since then, thanks to my right-hand guy and a bunch of other people like Terry and Allie, and it's not done by just one person, but I have to say Rob did the grand share of the Fairway contract, which was a major problem, and because of him and because of the work of the staff, that contract was overly voted in, like 5-1. So we now have a 4-year contract with Fairway? Three. So, but a good deal, and like I said, finally, we're moving forward on a bunch of fronts. Before I get into Stop and Shop and King Cullen and organizing, I just want to say one thing. Those of you that come here regularly and you hear reports, you normally see Brendan Sexton here, our Director of Organizing and our Political Director. And I want to tell you that Monday he came in to see Rob and I, and he left us. He resigned. Nothing bad for Brendan, we wished him well. He did love the kid. I say kid because he's 40 and I'm 62, but I love the kid. He went on to get a higher paying job, and I can never knock that. So I wish him well. We are going to be looking for an organizing director. And Bruce, I want to thank you for addressing the membership tonight, because I am going to address organizing in a few minutes. Okay, just back to contracts a minute. We do have a couple out there that are still hanging that we are working on. If you work for DAGS or you work for Gristides, we are feverishly trying to get those done. We have a 5-in-1 key food contract that's still out there, and a Matlin key food contract that's out there. In addition to that, we have a couple of contracts coming up this year. We have Hale and Hardy coming up, which is a soup company. That was one of the ones we did organize just about 2 years ago. And a bed key food, which is another problem, but we'll get there. So those are the contracts that we have coming up. All right. Let's talk about Stop and Shop first in this regard. Right now, as we speak, and I'm probably taking some of your remarks, but I'll do it. But I'll do it anyway. It's called presidential prerogatives.
We just call it normal.
As we speak tonight, there are 30,000 members in New England who are without a contract. And as we speak, every one of the locals, as of Sunday night, has given a strike vote to their locals. And I want to publicly state tonight here and on YouTube and Facebook that we are behind the 30,000 members of Local 328, 371, 919, 1445, and 1459, because we will not let Stop and Shop knock any of our brothers and sisters out without a fight. And if there's a fight and they go on strike, my pledge is we will have people on those picket lines in New England, because they would do it for us. All right? As we speak, we have staff up there. This week we have Rob Ecker and Jeff Cordato. And next week we have Freddie Walter and Jay Scorzelli going up. And if they need more than that, we're going to send them. And what are the issues? No different than here. No different than any company wants. More pay for medical, less pension, less vacation, less sick time, and less money. Less money. Can you imagine that? They don't want to give money, they want to take it away, so you're making less. We're not going to let that happen. Filter that down here to 342. They don't have a contract with Stop and Shop either. And I'll tell you right now, they're in a tough spot. And last week, or is it 2 weeks? They pulled 9 stores just to deliver a message. And they went on strike for just a couple hours. We will back 342, and if they go out, we will have people on the picket lines, because that's what we need to do. All right? And President Amendola has our support. Richie, Rob, myself, and the executive team have talked to them, because they would do it for us. So that's what we're up against, okay? We'll keep you posted, and you'll certainly hear if there's a strike anywhere. We may be looking for volunteers, all right? All right, let me do this, other than my few friends here. How many Cullen people do we have in the room today? Okay, and I know Wild by Nature. I should say Wild by Nature and King Cullen, because we have both. All right, let me just say this. We are as open as we can be. We don't know a lot. We just don't know a lot yet. You know, when the deal was first announced that Stop and Shop was buying Cullen, it was a little bit of a surprise. The FTC is now involved. We know that the companies have met with the FTC, but that's really all we know. You know, they don't tell us this stuff. As far as we know, and maybe you guys can tell me more, we believe now the deal will be put off at least until June, sometime in June. And that pretty much is a fact. As we learn more, we're certainly going to tell you. And Rob, that's what I'm going to ask. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, look, understand, this is no different than, and again, I know this is a really small comparison, but it's no different than buying a home. You know, you go in, you put a down payment on a home, if you reach an arrangement on a price, you then send an engineer in, the engineer goes in, he starts looking under the hood, he checks out the appliances, he checks out the heating system. Effectively, what's going on right now is Stop and Shop is tearing through the company. They're assessing all the potential physical improvements they may or may not have to make. They're looking at leases, they're looking at sales per man hour, they're looking at square footage, They're looking at everything and anything that that a prospective buyer would look at. But with the FTC being closed for 35 days or 38 days, whatever it was, this whole entire process was effectively put on a back burner. So right now, there are people from Stop and Shop who are in the Bethpage office. They have access to the things they need to have access to, and they don't have access to things that they don't need to have access to until the deal is consummated. The assumption is that both parties want to progress positively and make this deal go through. And in our opinion, as the representative for both companies, this is the best possible long-term solution for the Cullen people and the stores that Cullen currently owns. But at the end of the day, until it gets to a point where the deal is consummated, it's a personal and private deal. There's non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality agreements all over the place. So little pieces here, little pieces there leak out, but at the end of the day, until it becomes a public sale, there's very little information that we're gonna be given.
So if people hear it's just rumors and it could change everything, I hear little things here, little things here.
The only thing I would tell you, look, I'm gonna tell you two things tonight. First of all, if you hear anything and it's important, or even if it's not and you think it is, call us. Because you'll know rumors before we do, seriously.
So somebody could renege on the contract.
It could happen, yes, it could.
It's possible.
Till it's signed.
On
That's
the
what I'm saying, till it's
acquisition?
signed.
On the app, the whole deal.
Either party could walk.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
Could the
Until
deal
it's
fall
signed.
through?
And what would happen if the other party walked?
In what respect, I'm not sure I understand.
In respect as if they both backed out.
If they both backed out, Cullen would continue.
Cullen
on.
operates
As a King Cullen
Yeah.
situation.
Correct,
Yeah.
but I would tell you, look, Cullen's not selling these stores to Stop and Shop because they're not looking to sell. It's not like Stop and Shop is coming new to the industry and they wanna get into this area. Cullen wants to get out of the business, otherwise they wouldn't be engaging in this arrangement.
Is it true that I heard that it's a merger?
It's gonna be called an acquisition
Is
or a
it
merger.
Is it a merger, which merger is ridiculous, because a merger stipulates that the companies are combining together. It's not that way.
In all actuality, that's true if you consider assets and liabilities. This is not just an asset purchase, it's a purchase of all assets and liabilities. So
Understood.
that could be and again, by no means am I an expert, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I am. What I know is that they're trying to buy any and all, except for a handful of things that may be specified in the deal. Everything that belongs to King Cullen would effectively belong to Stop and Shop if the deal is.
That's including the real estate, the holdings and stuff like that?
They have a right to include or exclude whatever they want in the deal. And again, that's not something that we're privy to or that we would have access to.
I have a question too.
Go ahead.
Okay, when A&P owned Pathmark and Wallbounds and all
Mhm.
that.
Sure.
And it merged or whatever you wanna call it, a lot of stores closed. I work in a store that there's King Cullen's on both sides, and there's Stop and Shops. I mean, what would happen to the stores, the people that work? Like, if I work in a store that closes, what happens to me?
Until the deal is consummated.
No, but I'm just saying.
You asked a question, it's a very valid question, just let me answer. Until the deal is consummated, to assume exactly what's gonna translate or what's gonna take place would be a little bit crazy to do, because there's probably 3,000 variables that could happen. The reality is, in every case where Stop and Shop has acquired a company or a group of stores in our history, I can't speak to what they've done outside our geographic area, but in our history, they've absorbed the population, and where the FTC has told them that they have to divest, close, or sell stores, they've done so that the deal could be consummated. At the end of the day, there's probably stores that have short leases, and Stop and Shop may or may not be interested in running them for the length of that lease. If they can sell it, they might look to sell it, because what's the point of flipping and spending money, changing all the capital expenditure to change from a Cullen to a Stop and Shop if there's only this amount of time left? This is all information that has to be worked out, but the majority of that won't be public and won't be obvious until they get closer to the point where they're gonna sign the deal. In our case, it's two separate contracts, it's two separate companies. In the past, one of two things would typically play out. Either the Cullen contract would continue to exist for the term of that contract and Stop and Shop would honor it, or they would look to negotiate an acquisition agreement with the union for the Cullen people being brought into the Stop and Shop contract. In every case that we've negotiated an acquisition agreement, the people have moved over with little to no difficulty. In most cases, there's been no reduction in wage rate of pay. The A&P situation was a liquidation. It was
Yeah,
a
that was
much different scenario at the end. These two things, the definition of apples and oranges are two vastly different. You can't really compare what happened at one to the other. And when A&P acquired Pathmark, that was that was the biggest financial shell game we've seen in this industry in the last 50 years.
Go ahead.
There's been some speculation about the meat departments from King Cullen. There's been a letter sent out
Go ahead.
about, they had to take their personal time or whatever, vacation time, or else they will lose it.
Look, I can't speak to that. Here's what we're telling you as
Well,
our members.
it's a King Cullen meat department
I
is
think that's-
associated with King
I
Cullen.
know who the meat department is, I know.
All right.
I know they're 342.
Okay.
What I can tell you is what we are saying, all right, to you, as our members. First of all, our reps have a list of everybody's vacation entitlements. I believe actually everybody.
We have your vacation, we have your personal, up to and including February 28th of 2019.
Well, I have no one myself.
Well, that's fine, you have no issue.
There are 2,300, hang on one second. There are 2,300 people at Cullen. Anyone who has current year entitlement up to February 28th, 19, excuse me, or old archaic entitlement, we have a list of all of these. Anybody who's
Personal time and
personal and vacation.
time.
Sick is paid out at the end of the year.
Take it or leave it.
However, that's why I said the end of the 6-week year. No matter what, no one is going to lose that time. Stop and Shop bought 3 stores from King Cullen, or 4 stores from King Cullen and
Yes,
Staten Island, and they had to go through the same exact process. The difference was when they bought those stores, those were all Wall Bombs and A&P folks. They weren't traditional Cullen folk. So that's why it really wouldn't have the message wouldn't have translated out to the rest of the Cullen folk and that sort of stuff.
Equate to that, yeah.
But the reality is, we put both companies on notice. It was us that brought it to Stop and Shop's attention, not Cullen. It was us that brought it to Cullen's attention that we were going to tell Stop and Shop, because at the end of the day, they gotta pay the freight, one way or the other. If you wanna take your time, take it. There is no mandate for you to take it. There is absolutely not a take it or lose it situation.
You're not gonna lose time.
Unless
No
there's
way.
a stipulation in the
No way.
contract.
You're not gonna lose time.
That's all I need to know. That was my question anyway, thank you.
That's his favor. And I don't think I'm wrong. In fact, I know I'm not wrong.
And by the way, if you're sitting out there with
I don't
10,
want you to
12 weeks
think-
vacation, start taking
So
some
I
time.
would say
I mean,
that.
honest to God, I'm not telling you.
I hear, meat department is part of King Cullen.
If I had 12 weeks vacation, I would not be sitting here right now.
I hear things that they're forcing, or not forcing, that they wanna take it away.
No, they're recommending to their members, don't
Even if you have 6 or 7 weeks vacation, and a lot of people have, because the meat department is always stifled without it, and personal time.
Yep.
They can't, sick time I understand because that's in the contract, take it or lose it. But there's sick time, there's personal time and vacation time, which I've been hearing that there's a little growling about that, you know, take it, we're gonna push you around and
Not
you're
as far as I'm
gonna lose it.
concerned. You're not
I know
gonna
it's not this local.
I know, but that's all I worry about. I can't worry about 342.
Well, it's part of King Cullen.
I know that. They have their leadership.
Teddy, their union has to
I
represent.
told that was a personal, I paid it for, right?
No, I understand.
We're telling you, look, Rob said it, I'm gonna reiterate. If you're sitting there with 12 weeks, I would take some of it. I wouldn't
course.
leave it there.
I don't blame you.
But you're not gonna lose vacation. You're not gonna lose personal time. You're just not. You're not gonna let it happen. All right. Do we have anything else on that front? All right, so the last thing I want to talk about, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rob for the last part of the meeting. Look, you heard Bruce, I'm just going to reiterate. We have to organize, and we will have a new organizing director, but Bruce, Raphael, and George, reorganizers, cannot organize everything there is to organize by ourselves. We're going to be looking for help. What are we doing besides looking for a new director? These last 2 weeks, we have trained every one of our staff, every agent, every officer, to become organizers again. And I haven't organized since 1986. But we're gonna be back out there, all of us, because we have to. We have to. 2 Walmart 24-hour super centers are trying to be built right now. One in Yaphank and one that is being built in Farmingdale. Okay? Stu Leonard's, Aldi's, Whole Foods. Who else? Lidl now that bought the best markets. We have to organize or we will die. And I don't know about you, I ain't looking to die. All right? Because one thing I know, you work for and you deserve everything you get. And they don't give it to you because they love you. They give it to you because they have to, because we demand it. Okay? And we're going to get it from some of these other companies. So what I'm asking, once we get our director underway, and we have our staff trained, when we start doing some organizing on the street, you really can help us. Bruce wasn't kidding. Members in other stores will listen to you more than they'll listen to me, the union guy. You can tell them, hey, I work for Wild by Nature, I work for King Cullen, I work for Stop and Shop, I get this, I work for Key Food, I get that. What do you get?
What happens if the store is non-union? How do you?
We talk to them, we get them to sign cards, and we win an election, because that's what we're gonna do.
I know one store, okay, I was told, if you're part-time, you're non-union. If
I
you're
will only say
part-time-
this, I think I kinda know where you're at.
You definitely know exactly what she.
There is one company out there, which I will not name, that has a contract, not with us, not with the UFCW,
Hey, but they have a
region.
thing on their door.
They are just full-time union contract. There are no part-timers. So that can happen. We don't do that. That's the only comment I can
And what
make.
if they have your UFCW on
Yeah,
their door?
I know.
They do, it's a UFCW union.
We know who it-
exactly what
we
company
know
you're
who it
talking
is.
about. We are
Yeah.
not the representative.
We don't do that.
No different than we're not gonna talk about 342, I'm not gonna comment about
Yeah,
the local
no,
union.
it is true. It's a full-time contract only, and they have that right. So that's what they did.
And all the part-timers just,
They're not union.
Go about their own way.
Anyway, I want to thank you. I appreciate you listening, and I'm going to turn it over to Rob. So, Rob?
Look at my office staff run for the hills. Don't run, Jamie. Don't run.
Jamie, you be good tonight.
Take it easy on Jamie.
You can't tell that's Jamie Mercado from our pension department who's beyond due date and still coming to benefit. Listen, I'm gonna try to be as brief as I can. I apologize for some of the technical issues that we had this evening. But the first thing I want to do, and I cannot overaccent what I'm about to say to you. Our staff proved beyond a reasonable doubt when we voted the Fairway contract that we have the best staff, not only in the UFCW, but potentially in the labor movement. The Fairway membership is 2,400 in local 1,500 with another 400 that we provide pension and welfare benefits for two other local unions in Connecticut and in New Jersey. This contract is the only contract, I believe, in the country that has time and a half on Saturday and Sunday for part-timers. There's a group of 450-ish that have a guaranteed overtime every weekend of between 8 hours and as many as 19 hours. This is a contract that has always been very different. The moniker on that store was like no other market. The contract was like no other contract. The majority of the business for this company is inside the city limits of New York. They were crushed by the minimum wage in the city of New York. Believe it or not, as great a thing as that is for people, when you take a company from $9.25 an hour to $15.25 an hour in 80% of their business in 2 years and 1 day. Because that's effectively what it was. December 31st of 1 year, we did 2 December 31st later. 2 years, 1 day, everyone's rate of pay who was at the minimum went up 66%.
Pretty good.
And people that had, it's great except for what I'm about to say to you, Teddy. People that had 10 years, 12 years, 15 years are now all making the same exact money that somebody who came in 60 days ago is making. The wage compression in a company like that, when you're forced to have that type of minimum wage increase, leaves very little money left on the table. It creates an operating difficulty, and it would have potentially put 2,400 of our members, your brothers and sisters, in another potential bankruptcy situation. Fairway is owned by a bank. It is not owned by a supermarket company anymore. It's on its third CEO in the last 7 years. And to be quite honest, there's certain limitations to even what the best CEO could do there because they are being controlled by a bank. The fact is that our staff work their asses off. Every single one of them, every organizer, every field representative, every director, including the 2 assistants, the assistant to the president, the secretary, treasurer, were in those stores, they were in the PDC, the production center, and they worked their asses off all day to make sure that those members understood the severity and the importance of that deal, and the deal went through 5-1. When we settled at the table, the committee was polled unanimously, did not recommend the deal. The local took a neutral position. I'm here 25 years. We have never taken a neutral position, either up or down, accept or strike. Those are the only 2 recommendations we've ever made. We had to take a neutral because the wage package was substandard comparative to everything else in the industry. But when you look at the emoluments, when you look at time and a half for a part-time group of over almost 2,000 people, time and a half on Saturday and time and a half on Sunday, when 80% of them work inside the city limits, that's $22.50 an hour for every hour worked on Saturday and Sunday. $22.50 an hour for every hour worked on Saturday and Sunday. The fact is that contract is now secure for an additional 2 years. It was already almost a year overdue. And we are thrilled that we don't have a continued financial problem in that company. So I personally want to thank our staff, because no matter what we did at the table, and it was Ali, Joe, Terry Quinones, Vilmarie Sullivan, I believe Juan Guardado was with us once, and I believe maybe even Jay for one of the meetings. But no matter what we did at the table, no matter what the rank and file bargaining committee did at the table, it was absolutely useless without the job done in the stores by our field staff, and I cannot thank you enough. So they deserve the right to applause. One contract I realized after Tony was speaking that is also coming up for expiration is the Dan Supreme acquisition contract. Dan Supreme purchased a handful of stores during the A&P bankruptcy liquidation. Those stores had a 42-month contract that comes up in May of this year. I believe it's May 11th or May 19th off the top of my head. We're gonna look to negotiate an extension so that it expires in 2021 with the industry contract. So for anybody that's potentially watching on Facebook Live, I know Juan's here and Kathy. So there's an interchangeability with the acquisition group and the legacy stores. We're gonna look to unify the two contracts as far as expiration date and then try to merge them all together in 2021. That's also in the process. I wanna say, and I don't know why he didn't, but I'm gonna take a secretary-treasurer privilege, and I wanna wish our president good luck. Because in less than 2 weeks, our president is gonna make a very, very important step in his life to get healthy. Tony's gonna be out for a week or so. Hoping it's a little bit less than a week, but more than likely it could be a little bit longer than a week. Tony's made the choice to do weight loss surgery, and although he may look like half the man he used to be, my guess is he'll be twice the man he was when he comes back. So Tony, good luck, we love you, and God bless you. And I want to close very simply with how we started, and I don't see Eleanor, I'm assuming Eleanor has already gone home for the evening. But in 1994, I was lucky enough to be a part-timer on the Pathmark negotiating committee. And, you know, those of you that know me, I was just as obnoxious and brash then as I am now. Maybe I have a little bit more words in my repertoire now, and I don't drop F-bombs in public as much as I used to. My staff will probably disagree with that. But the reality is I met a handful of people that I had never met before. I was a part-time kid from Long Island, from Bayshore, and I met Harry Hammond. Forgive me. Harry, Harry was one of a kind. There were days I absolutely hated him, and there were days I absolutely loved him. I sat at that table with Harry for the better part of 5 months. Harry would light my fuse and laugh his ass off when I went crazy on the company. And he'd sit back and he'd watch and he'd go, kid, you'll learn someday. Someday you'll learn, someday you'll learn. And I dealt with Harry as a member, I dealt with him as a service rep, as a business agent, as a field director, as the assistant to the president, and as a secretary-treasurer of this great union. And I learned that people like Harry do not come across very often in life. And although I love and respect every member that we have and we've had in the past, I don't feel it would be appropriate not to single somebody like Harry out. Harry was a fearless shop steward. He was on, I don't even want to guess how many negotiating committees, but I would assume back to the early 80s. He had over 42 years with Pathmark. He was displaced when the A&P company was purchased, when they were liquidated in November of 2015, and he passed away suddenly. And as much as we lost Harry here at the union, as an active member, Harry never stepped aside. Harry was at every blood drive, Harry was at every breakfast with Santa, Harry would come to the breast cancer walk or light the night events. He was an insanely active member and a cornerstone of this union for more than 40 years. And if I haven't said enough, I'll say this to you. When the news of Harry passing hit social media, the greatest president that will ever lead this local was Frank Meehan. And Frank Meehan's wife and daughter immediately reached out to me on social media because they were devastated because of how much Harry meant to Frank. And I hate getting emotional in front of people unless I'm screaming and cursing at them, but I just, it's important. It's important that we remember where we came from, who helped us get there, and we use the things that we were told along the way to make the next steps. Because if not for them, and if not for Harry, I certainly wouldn't be here talking to you today. So, rest in peace, Harry.
God bless.
Go Red Bull.
Thank you very much, Rob, and Harry will dearly be missed. Before we close with our raffle, we do have a video to show you. So after the raffle, reps, please collect the cards, okay?
Don't do it again.
Frances Perkins was the Secretary of Labor during the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration. She championed both labor and workplace safety.
Ai-jen Hu is the director of the National Domestic Workers Alliance. She was instrumental in the 2010 passage of New York's Domestic Workers Bill of Rights.
Dolores Huerta is the labor leader. In 1962, she co-founded the National Farm Workers Association with Cesar Chavez. Krista McGrath was a high school social studies teacher in Concord, New Hampshire, when she was selected to be the first civilian educator to fly into space. McGrath was a member of the National Education Association.
Lucy Parsons was a labor organizer. She participated in the founding of the Industrial Workers of the World, and in 2004, the city of Chicago named a park after her.
Margaret Haley was a teacher and a labor leader in the 1800s and early 1900s. In 1916, Haley helped the American Federation of Teachers.
Ellen Reeve, otherwise known as Mother Bloor, was an active socialist and labor organizer at the turn of the late 20th century. She worked with Upton Sinclair on his best-selling book, The Jungle, documenting the poor working conditions in Chicago stockyards.
Big Annie was known for leading marches in support of striking miners. Big Annie was the president of the Women's Auxiliary No. 15 of the Western Federation of Miners. She was known for leading marches in support of striking miners. Her portrait hangs in the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame. Mother Jones was an Irish-American school teacher and labor organizer. In 1903, she organized the Children's Crusade, in which children who worked in mines and factories marched from Philadelphia to President Theodore Roosevelt's home in Oyster Bay, New York.
Rosina Tuck was an important figure in the foundation of the Brotherhood of Sleep and Car Porters. Rosina Tucker, 1938, she was elected Secretary-Treasurer of the Unions in Philadelphia.
She worked hard for the money, so you better treat her right.
thank you, a very special thank you to all of our,
Attendance card,
yeah,
guys.
to all of our female members out there. Attendance cards, guys.
Just one little announcement, you never know when a great idea is gonna come around. But, John Woods, I just want to thank you. We're gonna name the Outstanding Shop Steward Award after Harry Hammond from this year going forward.
Very nice.
Any other cards out there, guys? Nope.
Sit on the cards? Okay, we're gonna start.
I'm sitting on my card.
You still recording? Dominic, come on up.
We're playing games, then. No.
Richard Bernicat, shop right 293. Come on up, Richard. Juan Calidris. Juan still here? Come on up, Juan.
How old are they? 34?
Younger.
27? That's why we kicked your ass up.
Juan Clerico, come on up.
No, what do you, are you a delegate or alternate? No. Which is a delegate.
By the way, everybody's gonna take a brownie tonight when you leave, okay?
Teddy Lamarco.
Teddy.
Teddy. Come on up.
Come on up here, pick out a card.
You're a winner, we're doing a raffle.
Take my stuff.
Yeah.
Get up there, John.
I got.
Teddy, I see Dick Downey today.
Gus Rennie. Gus still here?
Yes, he's in the back. Gus?
Good for you. Get in the ball. He's one of my best friends.
Laura Bello. Come on up.
Oh, we win. I think it did. The whale? No. Talk. No.
Kathy Weisenberger.
Kathy.
Like some fucking diet Pepsi.
All right, Joshua Grano?
He came with me.
I don't know.
Cameron Cole. Stan Yonak? Darren Friedenberg. What up, Darren? How's Brett?
Money goes to money.
Dante. Thanks, Dan.
Take care of mine. I'll cover for you.
Cindy Williams. Two more.
I have to put
Last card gets a trade brownie.
Tim Doyle. Tim?
Probably at 44, right? You're out in your shop? I looked, I was like, I don't think he knows who I am. How are you? I had to go for cigarette training.
John R. Christian. All set. Thank you, everyone. No, you need a motion. All right, motion to adjourn. Dante and Stan. Thanks, everyone.